Hi there! In a previous video, I created this Python program that allows you to ask questions about PDF files and then get answers from the ChatGPT API. So if I run this program here, it will ask me for a file that I want to read. So I will give it my 4hours.pdf file, which is in the folder, and it contains the 4-hour workweek book, or a part of the book. It's just 37 pages. And I can ask a question about this book. Whatever is in the book, I can ask about. So, for example, I can say, where did the author go on a 1-week vacation? And then it will pick some keywords that it will search from the book. And then, as you can see, we got the answer here. The author went to Florence, Italy on a 1-week vacation. And I can ask something more like, what quote by Richard Feynman was in the book? And it will again search for quote Richard Feynman book. And we did not find an answer this time, so it is not perfect, but let me ask this one more time. The quote by Richard Feynman in the book is, "The first principle is that you must not fool yourself, and you are the easiest person to fool." Now, I'm not quite sure why it didn't find it the first time, because we used the exact same keywords. So the excerpt that we send to ChatGPT should be the same. So perhaps that is just a problem of the GPT 3.5 model, or my prompting should be better. But it works pretty well considering that it does not use the OpenAI embeddings to do this. But in the video I made about this, I got a comment asking me to make the same thing in PHP. So in today's video, we are going to do the same thing in PHP. And since I created before this ChatHTMX ChatGPT clone with HTMX and PHP, then how about we integrate the PDF reading into this chatbot? So it will be actually like a web UI, and we can ask questions here and perhaps like drop in a file and then it will read the file. So let's get started. So the first thing we have to do is we have to be able to read PDF file. Now I will in fact save this file into the project folder that it is there. And let's create a file, pdfread.php. And here we should make a function that will read a PDF file into text and then chunk it, because we have to chunk the PDF into the size chunks that fit into the ChatGPT context window. So let's do that. Let's first create a function, pdf to text, and we will get the file name. And then we will convert that into PDF. Now, if you Google PHP PDF library, and sorry, I have to say PHP PDF to text library, then you find, for example, this library here. But if you scroll down here, it will say, behind the scenes, this package leverages PDF to text. So in fact, it is using this command line tool called PDF to text, which we can install by using apt-get install popular utils on Linux. Now, I believe I have this already installed, so let's check. Yes, in fact, I have it installed, so I should be able to just say PDF to text and pass in the 4hours.pdf. And it will create a file called 4hours.txt, and here we have the whole thing. So we can leverage, as they say, this PDF to text command line tool to convert the PDF into text. So let's see if there are some flags to this program, so we can like set the file name or something. Okay, so it's just PDF file and then text file. And I'll have to reload my VS Code because it looks funny. So yeah, we give it the PDF file and the text file. So let's do that. So if I say 4hours.pdf and I say, for example, temp/pdf.txt, then if I then less temp pdf.text, then here we have the book in text format. So we can do that with PHP. So we can just say exec, and we can say PDF to text. Now we might have to use the actual path to it. So which PDF to text, user bin. I think it's going to work like this. So PDF to text, and we will have to pass in the file name, and we have to escape shell arguments, file name, and let's add here some sort of temporary file. So again, let's do escape shell arguments, and let's call it temp file. And we can create a name for this temp file by saying temp file is temp num. Again, PHP has great names for functions, and we will put it into temp. And prefix can be PDF to text. So after we run this, we should have a text file in temp file. And I'll add here unlink temp file so that we will actually delete it after we are done. And I will lazily put an @ symbol here in case something goes wrong and we don't have the file. And now we should read the text file and chunk it. So I'll in fact call this chunk PDF, just like in my Python version. Or in fact, I will not do that. I might do something like register shutdown function. And I will use this temp file, and then I will remove this temp file in the end of the execution. And I will return the temp file. So what this function will do is it will convert the given PDF file into text, and it will return the name of a temporary file, and then we can use that. And then once the whole script has been executed, then we will delete the temporary file. Now I would think that the temp name function would actually delete the file afterwards, but I think it doesn't, which is kind of weird. So I don't know what is the difference between just giving it a file name. It will be like a random file name, but it won't be deleted if I'm not mistaken. So the reason why I want to do this separately is that in the future I want to be able to read just text files. So now we can implement the function that reads a text file, and then just in case it is a PDF, then we convert it into a text file first. So then let's create that function. Chunk text file, and we will give it a file name, and we will give it the chunk size. And let's set this to 4000 at first, and let's set the overlap. So we have to overlap these chunks so that if there's some information that is in between chunks, then we actually get that in a single chunk. And let's set the overlap to 1000. And now it would be nice to just return a chunk split, and we would pass in like the file get contents file name. And then we would add here the length, which will be the chunk size. But the problem with this is that, first of all, it will not overlap. And second of all, we will read the whole file into memory and then split it, which might not be a good idea. Although we will ultimately read the whole file into memory anyway, which we could optimize at some point. But let's do this instead. Let's say that the file is fopen, file name, in the read mode. And then we have to read some chunks from this file. So I believe we can do something like while fread, and this will get the file and the length, how much to read, and we will just set it to chunk size. And this will return a string, or it will return false in the end of the file. So if this equals false, then we will stop this loop. And we of course have to get the actual text from this, so we will say that the chunk is that, and we will add parentheses here so that if this expression is false, then we stop it. And we can add here a chunks array, and then we can add this chunk to the chunks. So we can say chunks add chunk. And then how do we do the overlap? Well, I guess we could like rewind this file pointer back 1000 characters. So how do we do that? There's a rewind, but it will go all the way back. So how do we move? It's fseek, I believe, and this will move it by this offset. And we have a whence in here. Let's actually check the documentation for this. So, okay, so whence means that where from are we going to see? So let's use seek current, and let's say that the stream is the file and offset will be 1000, and in fact it will be minus 1000. So minus overlap. Since seek current means that we are going to set the position to the current position plus the offset. So if we add a negative offset, then it will go back. Now, if the whole file is less than the overlap, then this will probably fail. So we might want to do something like offset, and let's set it here. Offset is that. And how do we check this? How much can it be? I wonder, can we have negative numbers? Let's see first what will happen if we do this. But I'm not quite sure where to get this. I guess I could like keep track of the seek. Wait a minute, we have the ftel. So that's actually what we can use. Returns the current position of the file. Okay, so in fact, I will do this and I will say if ftel file is greater than or equal to the overlap, then we will see back the overlap amount. So then we can only seek until 0. Maybe that will work. And then of course we just return the chunks. So let's run this and see what happens. So if we say print r and we add here chunk text file, and we of course have to convert the PDF first. So we are going to say that the text file will be PDF to text 4 hours.pdf, and then we will say that we want a chunk text file, and we will print r this, so that should print all the chunks, which will be a lot of text, but that doesn't matter. Let's run php pdf read.php and perhaps pipe this into less, and we have a notice. What was our notice? File created in the system's temporary directory in... Okay, why is that warning notice? I don't know why we get a notice from that, but this should be while it is not equal to false. That is why we don't get any text out of this. So let's run this again. And now we're actually doing something. And perhaps we have run into an infinite loop. So let's see what I did wrong here. Let's add here echo chunk and a couple of new lines and see if we actually get something from this. Yeah, we get it, but we are just going through it perhaps in a loop. So what is going on here? What is going on here is that we are always seeking back, so we never get to the end. So we should say if we are in a position that is greater or equal to the overlap and the length of the chunk is greater than the chunk size, then we will seek back, because we don't want to seek back anymore when we get to the end. And in fact, they should be greater than or equal, because we might end exactly at the chunk size. So maybe that will work. Let's run this, and we are still doing something. We are printing an empty chunk. So let's go to the documentation of fread. Perhaps it does not return false. Okay, we have to use this f end of file, not if it is false. This is for if we use fgets, which gets one line. But when we use fread, we have to do something else. So let's do this. While we are not in the end of the file, then we will read the file. So this is what we will do. While not in the end of the file, read the file, the chunk size amount. And then we will add the chunk to the chunks, and we will echo the chunk out right now. Let's see if this works. Okay, now we did it. So now we have the whole book here. And if we instead remove that and we do less, then we are going to have an array with the first element being this, and the second element is somewhere at 4,000 characters. So here is the next one, and we should have some overlap here. So here it says the best of the blog, and if we go back here, then we should have somewhere the best of the blog. So now we are overlapping these a little bit. Great, so now it works. So next what we have to do is we have to find the chunks that match specific keyword. So let's do that. Let's create a lookup.php. And what are we going to do here? We are going to create a function find matches that will take a chunk and that will take the keywords. Now I might put here string and array. And then what we are going to do is we are going to make the chunk lowercase. So str2 lower chunk. And then we should have lowercase keywords as well, but we will do that in another file. And then what we will do is for each of the keywords as keyword, we are going to use the TF-IDF algorithm, kind of. Not the exact version because I don't know how to do that, but if we Google TF-IDF, then we have the term frequency inverse document frequency algorithm, which helps us search for chunks that have relevant information. So basically what we are doing is we are counting how many times a specific keyword occurs in the whole PDF file. And then we are using that as a weight for that keyword. So if we have some word in the book that occurs in many places, in many of the documents, in many of the pages, or many of the chunks, then we don't want to give a lot of weight to that particular keyword. So for example, the author's name is Tim. So there's probably a lot of Tim in this. So if we search for Tim and vacation, and then in one part of the book, there's like Tim 10 times in a paragraph. And Tim is also all over the place in the whole book. But there's only one place that has the word vacation. Then we don't want to select that place that has Tim in it, even though it has it in there many times. I hope that makes some sense. So let's implement a simple version of this. Now again, this is not the actual implementation because I don't know math. So if you want to see a better implementation, then I will leave a link in the description for a video that shows you a better version, although in Rust. So let's create an array here called df for document frequency. And it will be an empty array at first. And then for each of the keyword, we want to calculate the document frequency. And now I realize that I should have an array of the chunks actually. So we will not do this string to lower here yet, because for the document frequency, that means in all of the chunks. So we will have to loop through the chunks and the keywords. But I think I want to loop through them in the opposite way. So for each of the chunks as chunk, we are going to loop through all of the keywords. And then we are going to say that the occurrences will be substring count in the chunk of the keyword. And we have to add these occurrences to the document frequency of that keyword. So we will say if it is not set in the document frequency, the keyword, then we will set it to 0. And then we will say df keyword plus equals occurrences. And here we have to convert the chunk into lowercase. I wonder if there's like a sub str I count or something. Perhaps we have to convert it to lowercase because we want it to be case insensitive. So chunk equals str to lower chunk. So after these two loops, we should have all the keywords and their total occurrences in the whole document in the df array. And then what we can do is we can then set a results array in which we will save all of the chunks and their points. So how many times the keywords occur in those chunks. And we will divide it by the document frequency. Now the actual way of doing it is probably not division, it's something else. But I found that the division works well enough for this. If you know how to actually do it, then feel free to make a pull request on the GitHub repository. So let's do the exact same thing again, which seems like there's a better way. But I mean, I have to calculate the document frequency first for all of the chunks. So I guess it's what I have to do. Now, I might convert all the chunks into lowercase in one loop. So I might do something like this. I might say that chunks, and I will get the chunk ID here. And then I will say that the chunk is that, and also the chunks chunk ID is chunk. So we will actually modify the original array that we passed in here. So then we don't have to do it here again because we have done it already. And again, we will count the occurrences of the keyword in the chunk. And then we will say that if in the results we do not have the keyword yet, then we will set the points to 0. And sorry, this is not keyword. This will be the chunk ID, which we have to get here again, chunk ID. So the format of this results array will be like this. We will have the chunk ID here and then the points. How many points does this chunk have? So we add occurrences and we divide by the df of that keyword. Now this might be 0. I mean, I guess it shouldn't be 0. But just to be sure, I will say if this is greater than 0, then only we do this. Because of course we cannot divide by 0. And perhaps we should check if it is set as well. Perhaps this is unnecessary and might be even better if we don't have this, because then we get an error if for some reason this happens. But I don't think it should happen. Anyway, let's continue. After we have done these loops, we should have for every chunk ID the points. And then we can sort this array by the value while maintaining the key. So then we will have the best points at the top. So we can do that by saying AR sort. So what AR sort does is it sorts an array in reverse order and maintains index association. So we can add here results, and this actually modifies the original because it is passed as a reference. So then we can just return results. So now let's test this out. Let's create a test.php, and in here let's require lookup.php, and let's require pdfread.php, and let's say that the text file is pdf to text of 4hours.pdf, and let's say that the chunks is chunk text file, and then let's say that the matches is find matches of the chunks and keywords. Now we have to set the keywords, so let's do this. Let's say that the question is, where did the author go on a 1-week vacation? And let's say that the keywords is explode at the space of question. And let's in fact make this to lowercase. And we're actually going to do this with the ChatGPT API, but right now I'm just doing it like this for simplicity and for testing. And for now, I will just remove the question mark from here because we don't want that to be in the keywords. And then let's do print R matches. And let's see what is in here. So if we run php test.php, we get a bunch of things here. Now, I want to know, why do I get a notice from file created in the system's temporary directory? Why is that a problem? I think this has something to do with, oh, sorry. This should be called TMP. That's probably the issue. So it cannot write into temp, so then it falls back to the temporary place. So now we don't get the error. Okay, that is the issue. So this means that number 11 chunk has the best points for this specific question. So let's see what is in chunk number 11. So we can do that by saying echo chunks number 11. And let's run this. And what do we have here? Do we have something about a vacation? Here we have, I take a 1-week vacation to Florence, Italy with my family. So we found the right spot in the text that contains the answer to this question. So now what we have to do is we have to just include ChatGPT into the mix. So let's do that. Let's create a new file called gpt.php, and let's include my ChatGPT API library, which you can find on my GitHub in php-gpt-funcs/library. And I will copy this from here and I will create a new file called chatgpt.php, and I'll paste it here. And then in here we will require chatgpt.php. And let's create a function. Function get keywords. And we will pass in the chunk. And then let's create a prompt for ChatGPT. And in here we will say, I want to search for the answer to this question from a PDF file. Please give me a list of keywords that I could use to search for the information. And then let's add here some ticks, and let's add here the chunk. And sorry, this is not the chunk, this is the question. And then let's do ChatGPT is new ChatGPT. And I will get the API key from my environment. So I'll say get env OpenAI API key. You can also pass it directly in here if you want. Just as a string, just put it here. But I have it there, so I will use that. And then we will say ChatGPT message to set a system message. And I'll just say here that you are a search keyword generator, which should be enough in this case. And then what we are going to do is we are going to say ChatGPT message for user message, and we will pass in our prompt. And then the response will be ChatGPT response. Now, there is a problem with my ChatGPT API client or library that I can't actually get the direct function response from this. Because the way I designed this was that you can just call a function and then pass the result of the function to ChatGPT, and then ChatGPT will answer with regular text. So I didn't think of the scenario where you just want to get the result from ChatGPT without actually calling a function. So let's implement that somehow in this library. So the response function actually uses GPT-4. So I'll put here GPT 3.5 Turbo. And when we get the message, we do the handle functions. And what this does is it checks if there's a function call in the response, then it calls the actual function and then passes the result to ChatGPT. But now I would just want to get the message function call and then get the arguments from that. So what I will do here now is I will do something like this. I will add a Boolean raw function response, and I will set it to false by default, and then I will pass that into handle functions, raw function response, and I will add it here as well. Boolean raw function response is false. And then what I will do is here, when we have parsed the arguments already, I am going to do this. If raw function response, then we will return what? We could just return the message, I guess, but I would like to get the arguments parsed already. Or do I? Maybe I will just move this here. In fact, here. So if we have a function call and we want the raw function response, then we just return the message as it is. So now what I can do is I can say here that true. Yes, we want to raw function response. And then the response should have the function call. In fact, I will return the function call or not. Just a message. And then what I can do is I can say that function call is response function call. And then I can parse the arguments this way. So we will JSON decode the arguments into an associative array. So we will do this, and we will say arguments is that. And then we can get from the arguments the list of keywords, which I realized I forgot to actually implement that. So let's do this. Return arguments keywords. And then we have to create that function. So let's do ChatGPT add function. And we will add a function here. And in fact, I have to name this function. So I will give it list keywords. And this is kind of where my function calling library falls apart because I haven't thought of this idea of not actually calling a function. So I have to actually create the function here. So function list keywords, and it will take the an array of keywords. And I don't actually have to do anything in this because I will just use this to define the function to ChatGPT. So I will say here that this function list keywords to the user, and it will have a param array of strings keywords, and this will be array of a list of keywords, and that should be enough, I guess. So this function will be converted into the ChatGPT API format. Hopefully this works. So let's try this out. I will also add here, use the list keywords function to list the keywords or to respond. Because again, I haven't implemented a way to set this function call to a specific function. Now it's auto, so ChatGPT might respond with just a regular message, but hopefully it will understand from this. So let's test this out. I am going to require gpt.php, and I will say that the keywords are get keywords, and I'll pass in the question. And let's just print R the keywords here and see if we actually get something. So let's run test.php, and we are loading, and we got author vacation 1 week, but we got an error because I forgot to die, and we got a string, not an array. So perhaps there's something wrong with my detection of the array. What if I just set it as an array? Let's try this again. Okay, it is still a comma separated list, but it is calling the function. So did I not implement arrays in this thing? Okay, I do handle arrays here, but for some reason it does not work. So array string. I think it's because I can't have this here, because I can't have the type of the element in the array in the actual function definition. So it has to be in the doc block, but this takes it preferentially from this one. So I will not have it there. So now it hopefully works. Okay, now it works. So we got an actual array here. So we got this array, author 1 week vacation, where go. Now I should fix this because I only want one word per keyword. So now we have 1 week vacation like this. So it probably won't find it. Although it did find it, so it works. So let's do a couple of modifications. Let's do this. Keywords is implode arguments keywords with a space, and then let's do keywords is explode from a space the keywords. So this will convert all the keywords that have a space in them into separate keywords. So now we will only have separate words as keyword. And what we have to do now is we have to create a function that gets the response to the question from a chunk of text. So let's do that. Let's create a function, answer question, and we will get the string of a chunk, and we will get the string of a question, and we will create a prompt, and this will be some ticks and a new line, and let's add here the chunk. So we first add the chunk of text, and then we say, based on the above excerpt, what is the answer to the following question? And let's add the question here, again surrounded by these ticks, question. And then let's do this. If the answer to the question is included in the above text, respond with the give response function. If it is not found in the given text, respond with the next excerpt function. And then we can give it those functions. So let's do this again. Now we probably should move this into its own class or file or function so that we don't have to call this ChatGPT in many places, but we will do it just like this for now. And we will do this here. And here we will add a function called giveResponse. And we will add a function called nextExcerpt. And we will set a system message. You are trying to find answers to the questions of the user from a PDF file. You will be provided with an excerpt of the PDF file. If the excerpt contains the answer to the question, use the giveResponse function to tell the answer to the user. Otherwise, call the nextExcerpt function to get the next excerpt from the PDF. And the user message will be the prompt over here. And then we should get the raw function response again. And then we should say, in fact, we could just return the function call. Return function call. And then we could add this in our test. So we get the keywords and we chunk the PDF, we find the matches, and then we should pass in the first of the matches. So the best is the next of the matches. Actually, the current. Next, I think it will call that second one. Current. And then we will call answer question from the best, so the best chunk. And the question will be the question that we have over here. So this will be the answer. Answer is that. And let's just print R the answer for now. And let's see if this works. So let's run it again and see what happens. Okay, add function must be callable. So I forgot to define my functions. So we have to have giveResponse and nextExcerpt. Now I can define them here as an array, but I forgot already how to do that. So I will just use this way. So this will be giveResponse with the response, which will be a string, the response to the user, and give the response to the user. And we will have another one, which will be nextExcerpt. nextExcerpt. And I believe I have to set some sort of parameter here because the ChatGPT API is weird. So I'll just set it to next and I will call it Boolean. It doesn't matter. And I will say get the next excerpt from the PDF. And this will be just a Boolean next and set this to true always. So now let's see what happens. So I think we were printing something somewhere. Did I forget print, echo? No, I don't have anything anywhere. So let's try and run this again. And we got our keywords, author, 1 week vacation. And we got next excerpt. So it didn't work as I expected. Now let's actually echo the best and see if we actually get the right answer from that. Oh, sorry. It gets the points. I have to say the key of the current, just the key from the matches. And then it will be matches, chunks, key matches. This is what we want. So let's do that. And here is our answer, which is the excerpt does not mention where the author went on a 1 week vacation. And let's see what we have here. Okay, so first of all, we still got a space in here, which is weird. Let's see this again, because I am not returning the actual keywords. And let's still print are the matches, and let's see if this is in fact how we should get it. So echo key is that. And let's run it again and see what happens. Okay, so we did not get a function call, so we got an error. And we got number 11 as the best, and the key is number 11. And we should have now the answer to the question here. Yes, we have, I take a 1 week vacation to Florence, Italy with my family. So we did not get a function call from this. So I'm guessing that ChatGPT responded with a regular message with the actual answer. So we would have to change our prompts so that we get it to actually respond with the right function. Now, one thing we could do is that if this is not set, then we call this function again until it is set. Now, not the best idea, but it should work, because I believe that it will sometimes call it. So I will return this again. And probably we should have some sort of limit so that it doesn't just forever call the function again and again. And I will in fact add here like some echo dot so that we can actually see when it calls this function. So let's try to do that. Here are our keywords and our excerpt, and we got a next excerpt. So for some reason, ChatGPT thinks that the answer was not found in this text, although it is here specifically, I take a 1-week vacation to Florence, Italy. So let's do one more thing just to verify that we are sending the right messages. I will echo the prompt here. And let's see if we actually have the prompt or the excerpt in the prompt. And yes, we have it here. But for some reason, ChatGPT just is stupid right now and it doesn't understand that this actually has the answer. So I will try to use GPT-4 in this case and see if GPT-4 is a bit more clever with this. But I was able to do it with GPT 3.5 in the Python version, but I'm using a little bit of a different technique here. So I will say GPT-4 and let's run this again and see if GPT-4 can get the answer for us. And yes, we can actually get the answer here. So GPT-4 answered, the author went on a 1-week vacation in Florence, Italy. So GPT 3.5 is not quite as good as GPT-4 yet, but we can optimize this prompt to make it work better. So let's finish this functionality now with GPT-4 and then let's try to optimize the prompts so that it actually works with GPT 3.5. So let's go here and now we should parse the answer from this. So how we do that is right now we get the object that has the name, which has the give response, and the arguments that has the response as JSON. So let's first check if we have the name in there and if it is give response. So in fact, what I will do here is I will do this for each of the matches as chunk ID and points. We are going to get the answer to this question based on this chunk. So we will say that we will answer based on chunks, chunk ID. And then if we have in the answer the name property and the answer name equals give response, then we will just answer echo GPT and we will pass in here the answer arguments and we should parse the arguments. So in fact, let's do this. Response, and let's say that the argument is JSON decode, the answer arguments true. And then the response will be arguments response. Isn't that what I call it? Yes, arguments response, and that will be the response. And let's add here some new line, and let's add here something like searching for, and then let's do implode with a comma and a space, the keywords, and a new line. And we can add our question mark back here, and we can remove all of this stuff from here. And I will in fact add a new line here too, because we are going to have the dots from this answer question function. And of course we have to break at this point. So otherwise, if we don't have the answer, then we move to the next chunk. And then in the end, we should say that if we don't have the response, so if the name is not give response and it is not set, so if we don't have the name or the name is not give response, then we will say echo GPT, I can't find the answer. So this should now work. So let's try and run this. And for some reason, it is stuck. But now, okay, we got the answer finally. And we got the response. The author went on a 1-week vacation in Florence, Italy. But we still printed out this stuff. So I forgot some debugging somewhere. In here we are printing the prompt. So let's get rid of that. And searching for author, 1-week vacation, location, destination, vacation, place, trip, journey. The author went on a 1-week vacation in Florence, Italy. So now it actually works, although only with GPT-4. So let's try this. I'm sorry, I cannot ask questions yet. It only answers the same question every time. So we should add an input here. So how do you do an input in PHP? We need to do something like input is fopen PHP std in PHP :/std in, probably like this. And then, or let's call this std in, and we are going to read it. And then we will say that the input is fgets std in, and we are going to want to trim this probably, and then we are going to call fclose on the std in, and this will in fact be the question. And we can echo here, GPT, what do you want to know? And let's add a new line, and let's add you here, and let's echo a new line down here as well, and let's put 2 new lines here, and that looks pretty good. So let's run this and see if this is in fact how you read from std in. Okay, so now we are asking, what do you want to know? What quote by Richard Feynman was in the book? And we are searching for Richard Feynman quote, book, Feynman quote in book, Richard Feynman. And I realize now that we are not converting these keywords into lowercase, and that's why we did not find this, because in the book it is all uppercase, although we are converting the chunks to lowercase, but we are not converting the keyword to lowercase. So let's do here where we implode the keywords, let's do str to lower. So we are going to make them lowercase. And let's do this again. What quote by Richard Feynman was in the book? And we are going to be searching for Richard Feynman quote book, PDF Feynman quote in book. And the quote by Richard Feynman in the book is, the first principle is that you must not fool yourself, and you are the easiest person to fool. Now, I did fool myself a little bit in the beginning of the video when I said that I am going to integrate this into my ChatHTMX ChatGPT clone. So I don't have the time in this video to do that anymore, so I will do that in a future video. So make sure to subscribe to see that video. And let me know in the comments what do you think of this video and this idea, and let me know what you want to see in the future. But this video will end here. I will make a little bit of refinement to this program, and I will post it on my GitHub, and then you can try it out yourself. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.